What is new, Mr. Dipple? How are you, man?
Doing good, buddy. How about you?
Very good. Today's a good program because, man, we can't talk about this enough, but I want to weigh in on it myself. So we're going to talk about what happened to Joe Rogan, roughly where it is now. Other people like him, and right now we live in a cancel culture society, and man, if I think it's really got to stop, it's got to stop. There are some reasons why you got to pull the plug on something, but for the most part, I'm sorry, I'm just not a big fan.
Wow. No, no doubt about that.
So let's dive in. So the conversation today is cancel culture, Joe Rogan, my feedback on it, branding. What does this mean? And then I'm going to give my feedback. Is anyone that's a creator, product creator, a brand like Joe Rogan's his own brand, what you really need to do to hedge against stuff like this? Because, man, we live in a society right now that the littlest thing can be offensive. And I'm going to
Well,
weigh in on even Whoopi Goldberg.
I mean, it's amazing. And honestly, I think the industry to hurt the most is comedians. They can't crack any jokes anymore because everyone gets offended at anything. You
It's
know,
crazy. And here, I want to talk about that too. That's going to come later. And but you're absolutely right on that. And my feeling is this: if you're gonna own a space, or if just like the Joe got it twice. Okay, so one was you got Neil Young says, "Hey, pull him for misinformation," or I'm going to no. He just said, "Listen, I'm going to pull all my music off." But let's talk about that. Joe Rogan's podcast is number one, like uno number one. Like it's the best
right? No,
podcast out there.
no, yeah, no, head and shoulders above everyone else. And the thing about Neil Young is, I mean, he gave Spotify an ultimatum. You know, either cancel Joe Rogan or you know what I mean, or drop my music. I mean, that was a no brainer.
Yeah,
Why? Why? If you want to be that silly and cut yourself out of some branding and exposure by having your music on Spotify, then you know what I mean. Like,
exactly.
you wonder
Not to
about that.
mention my biggest pet peeve on that is first of all, who know Joe Rogan had a couple scientist type people on and doctors on. It's a show. He's getting their opinion, okay? And maybe you maybe you do a disclosure like this is the opinion of the doctors, not opinion of our show. You could do that. And I would
Right.
highly recommend that. So but he's just having somebody weigh in on their opinion. When have we become in America? When have we become it's one side or no side? Like it's just crazy. That's
No, no,
dangerous, by the way.
well, no,
Absolutely
no,
100% dangerous.
you know, it's super dangerous. It's yeah. There's no compromise anymore. There's no meeting in the middle. The middle people are forgotten. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's either extreme left or extreme right, and I mean, a good balance is being in the middle, and we don't have it.
Yeah, we really don't. And I I believe there's a fix for that, and we're going to see more of that. I think people are sick and tired on both sides. Okay, and so I want to talk about that. So you got Joe Rogan had a couple specialists on. One was a highly decorated doctor, another one was I think doctor, scientist, whatever. And for Neil Young to say it's misinformation. Now that being said, was it? We don't know. Is there doctors out there that they promote something to try to make money off, so they use their credentials to make money? Yeah, I'm assuming there would be. Uh, but you still have, like, for instance, when it comes to these things, like, I want to be informed. I want to hear. There's a book called Wisdom of the Crowd. Okay. And the wisdom of the crowd is there was a king, and he would literally just throw something out to the crowd, and the crowd would vote on it. Right. It was the wisdom of the crowd. So I've always been like that all my life. Like, I want to hear all the facts. It's kind of like that's what courts are all about. They have to hear the facts and then they decide guilty, not guilty, that sort of thing. When has it become that it's one side or nothing? Like, it's our opinion, and anyone that disagrees with us is is nothing, right?
Right.
Crazy.
No,
So
you know, it is, but I really think it's we're becoming a country that can't take anything.
I know.
You know, like I mean,
Oh
like the
God.
older I mean, you look at all the stuff the older generation had to go through. The new generation hasn't had to go through anything.
Right.
You know, so they can't take anything.
Well, not only that, it's kind of like some of the stuff they allow versus the stuff that now they're offended by blows my mind.
But no, you're right. You're 100% right on
When
that
I
too.
was a kid, you didn't see certain things. You didn't see wardrobe malfunctions. You didn't see half naked. Like you didn't see that, right? So
Right.
that was censored. And then talk shows had a little more room, it's a freaking talk show. So, you look at spot. So I was asked last night. Now I have somebody, she has about a 2 million following. And she's like, now I'm real worried. I'm like, listen, have some disclosures up front, but here's a takeaway. You definitely want to have your brand secured. And what do I mean? Like Joe's got his own platform, like he's got the Joe Rogan Experience website, right?
Right.
So God forbid if somebody nixed him, you still know how to find him. And technically, at that point, then he would be syndicated and that's what I think he should do.
I mean, have you seen the offers he's turned down?
Yeah, rightfully so, and we'll talk about that.
Right.
By the way, I agree with it.
Right.
Yeah, he's turned down some hefty ones, and he's probably getting more right now as we speak. Joe, listen, if you love him or hate him, I like him. Do I believe in everything that's said on there? Of course not. It's entertainment, and it's just a conversation. Can you imagine if you and I are around a fire pit and we all have to censor what we say? Like, how stupid would that be?
No, it's ridiculous. You know,
It's already told, what I love about, certain podcasts is he'll even say, what is your audience? Is your audience plus 18, and stuff like that. So right there's enough, in my opinion. And you tune in. If you like it, keep listening. If you don't like it, guess what? Turn the channel.
That's exactly right.
Like just turn the channel. What is the, I just don't get it.
Right. So, you know what I mean? But like, it's okay for what, like the View or other shows to say whatever they want, and that's okay. But yet, you know what I mean? Like Joe Rogan can't say what he wants, and both of them are opinion based and entertaining.
Yes. Yes. And now listen, there are some things that, that shouldn't be tolerated. And I get that. Like if let's say somebody created a podcast about Germans, like how bad, I get that. You don't want that stuff. I mean, and nobody wants it. However, Joe had a couple guests on, just the disclosure should be there. And I'm okay with that. A disclosure. Hey, the opinions of others is not the opinion of necessarily opinions of ours, blah, blah, blah. So you have proper disclosures. And, but here's where I'm having a problem. Number one, cancel culture. You got to hedge against that. Right. Number two, now they stitched together a bunch of content that was out of sequence, and you're not hearing the whole story, and it makes him look like a racist because he's using the N-word. Okay. Right. Now, if you listen to one of them, the conversation was between him and a African-American gentleman. I forget who it was, but the bottom line was like, okay, so why is it that black people are using the N-word now? And is it okay for us to say it? And then he says it, right? And the answer was, no, you don't have the right to say it. We're like, they're kind of like making it less meaningful. Like they're going to own that word. And good, fine. But they took it out of context. It sounded worse than it was. And listen, it was part of the show, but Joe Rogan apologized for that. He says, listen, that was years ago. It was a matter of conversation and controversy around the word. It had nothing. He wasn't calling somebody that. He's just saying he's discussing the word itself. That was part of the subject matter. Anyway, so they took it out of content. Now he says, moving forward, I'm a different man. Like I wouldn't even bring it up anymore. Like there's no reason to, right?
Right.
That said, here's where I have a problem. Are you a racist?
No, I don't think I am.
All right. Either am I.
I don't think I am. Yeah.
So if I'm not a racist, I know 100% that every one of my family members before my parents came over on the boat. So what do I mean by that? Why do I want to bring that up? None of them had any slaves or any of that stuff, right? So there's that. So literally, they came over the boat. So what do I have to do with all that? That's in the history. We learn from it. That's why you have history books. I don't believe in removing things out of the history books. This is why you have it. You got to have education. That being said, I think it's becoming reverse racism. Now you're having, it's okay to say white or black entertainment. Can you imagine if you and I came out with white entertainment?
Right.
First of all, it would be stupid as hell. Like I would never do that. But if you and I did that, holy crap. Like, anyways, it's crazy.
Or White History Month.
Or White History Month. So here's my pushback on this stuff. There's too much against one thing, but you don't practice what you're preaching. If you don't want racism, and none of us do, I am 100% not a racist. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm not. But one things that bother me is like, okay, Black College Week. We there's always like these labels, and it's like, wait a minute. I thought you didn't like racism. I thought you were against racism. If you're against racism, why are you using? I don't get offended easily, but I'm constantly hearing like whiteness, and I'm hearing kind of like white people are bad. If it wasn't for the way, no, you don't know me. Like, that's racism. So if you can't be a racist and then say you don't want racism. That's my opinion on it.
Right. No, the hypocrisy is unbelievable.
Oh,
and we also got a comment saying Joe Rogan shouldn't have apologized. And I agree with that. I don't think he should have,
No, I 100% don't believe that he should have. I would have. Here's what I would have done if I was Joe. I would have just said, listen, I had guests on. That being said, did I agree with everything? Yes or no? These are our opinions. That's all. This is America. This is what freedom of speech.
Right.
You all decide. It's not pushing misinformation. Who's to say Neil Young is now the king of misinformation? Like, he's the one that decides who's saying what and what's right and what's wrong. Come on.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, I think it's part of what makes this country great is the fact that all of us are from somewhere else. You get a DNA test, none of it comes up American. It's German, English, Welsh, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we're all Americans now. You know what I mean? But all of us came from somewhere else.
Absolutely. I've got all sorts.
Right.
I've got a lot of a lot of Swedish and English in me. And but here's the deal. We got to get past it. And but my pushback, even with Whoopi Goldberg, she just didn't know what she was. Okay, so you educate her. She comes on, have a show about it. That's what I would have done. Like, let's have a show about it. Let's have people like almost educate her right on the show. She was wrong. Okay, she was wrong. I don't believe Whoopi Goldberg should have been suspended, and I don't think she needs to be canceled. That said, same with Joe Rogan. Was there things said with the N-word stuff? Yeah, so you address it. You took it all out of context, and I have a feeling they're going to bring this back. It's going to bite whoever put that together. It's going to bite them.
Bite them. Exactly.
Hey, if you want to be part of the conversation, feel free to put it into the comments if you have a question or what we're talking about right now is cancel culture. We're talking about cancel culture. Are you for it? Are you against it? I'm against it. D's against it. I'm all about business too. I'm about equal rights and equality, period. I don't care if you're Hispanic, Chinese, if you're black, if you're white, if you're Mexican, like, I don't care. Like, equality right across the board. This is America. This is where it's the land of the dreams. Like, did you know that most entrepreneurs in the United States, I think I might have said this before. Did you know that the top earning entrepreneurs in the United States are, do you have any, like, the top entrepreneurs in the United States?
Right.
Is it white people? It
It's a
is
mix.
immigrants. It could be white, could be black. It's
Right.
immigrants. Immigrants make the top tier when it comes to entrepreneur and wealth. And I had some people say, no, Tim, that can't be true. It's 100% true. Just go vet it.
Right.
So why do I bring that up? America is for immigration. We're all about it. All of us. You're an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. Every one of us is an immigrant except for the American Indian. Yes or yes? Right.
Yes.
They were the founder of America. Let's be honest.
Right.
I don't believe this is going to be a controversy. I don't believe we should celebrate Christopher Columbus. That's my opinion. But see, I don't hate Italians. Like, it's just my opinion. He came over and he took a country that was already had. So that's my opinion, though. So we're too small to be canceled. So that's cool. As of right now, maybe later. But here's the deal. That's my opinion. So I just feel that the cancel culture thing, you got Joe Rogan, and let's talk about I think racism across the board. You can't say whiteness. You can't say what is it? What's the other one? I can't stand it. Can't stand this white privilege.
Yeah.
Can't stand it.
Yeah.
Are there racists out there? Absolutely 100%. But we all had to stand together. We all have to lock arms and make sure that is known that we don't back that. Right. That's what we have to do. Are there bad police officers? Of course. So we need to remove them. We need to remove them. Right. You don't remove all of the police force. You remove the bad ones. That's what we need to stand for. Right. But so racism is across the board. If you say anything like against a white person because they're white, you're a racist.
That's
if
right.
you say something about black people because this person's black, you're a racist. I mean, negative, right?
Right.
Joe Rogan was taken out of context. He was not calling. It was a conversation regarding the word itself. That's what it was. I know this, and I don't know him personally, just so you know. There's no friggin' way Joe Rogan's a racist. Like the dude's got a plethora of friends of all races. Like he's super popular. He's smart enough not to be a racist. Let's be honest. Racism is ignorance. Period. Like it's just ignorance, right? No different than anyways. So with these people that went on, and I don't know her name, but she went on about Joe Rogan, and then she was promoting black something, and I'm like, well, that's odd. Like, I would never like promote white something. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. Like, how about promoting all of it? How about people can come together as groups, but make it inclusive. We all need to be inclusive that way. All right, let's talk about real quick Spotify versus.
Hey, yeah, we got another comment. Facts don't matter to cancel culture. It's all about creating a division that doesn't actually exist. The question we should all unite on is, what is a larger agenda to those pushing this division?
Awesome. And by the way, for those that want to be anonymous, you can do it this way. But if you want your likeness to come up on the screen and be on here, just make sure you give the permissions to StreamYard when we go live. Yeah, facts don't matter in cancel culture, and that's dangerous. So I agree with this person. Right. It's all about creating division. Yes, I 100% agree with that. By the way, I'm going to say it. When you have, I'm not going to pick on one particular media outlet, but when you have a media outlet that is always pushing the racism, my opinion, that's where the racism is. Like, they're using what they're feeling to really divide because they are a racist. Listen, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever heard, who was it? Not Howard Hughes. But he says, if I was the devil, right? He talks about, if I was the devil, you listen to this and it'll blow your mind of how current it is.
Was that Warren Cronkite or something?
No, you almost had it though. It is, we should bring it up.
Yeah, right. Because that was from the 60s, late 60s, 70s, wasn't it? When
I think it was like in the 50s.
Yeah.
My father used to listen to him all the time. can't think of his name. If you know his name, drop it in. But here was the deal. He says, if I was the devil, he would divide the church. He would divide the state. He would literally what's happening today is exactly what he put. We'll post it somewhere because I think it's incredible. Yeah. And that's what's going on. So if you were a racist, what would you do? Divide, push two races against each other. That's what you do. That's what Hitler did, right? You make one side look bad. And here's where it's really creepy, really bad. Even if it's against yourself, like if it's against yourself, Paul Harvey, yes, Keith,
Paul Harvey.
Let's bring it up.
Yep.
Yes, it was Paul Harvey that said it. If you have not heard that, you have got to go see this and listen to it. It's so profound, so current, kind of scary because it was such a vision. I think the guy kind of like prophesied somehow. But here's the deal. If you were like Walter Cronkite said, Paul Harvey, if you were the devil, if you were a racist, you could actually do more damage by trying to get one side against your like white people, right? So think about that. Like way back in the day, there was matter of fact, I think they made a movie of it. There was a white gentleman a white guy that was a racist. And he was going around and just destroying some stuff and then saying black people were doing it, right? Making them try to become racist in themselves. So think about what he was doing, right? That's what the media is doing. They're trying to divide. It's a known fact that there was organizations bringing in bricks and stones so that they can be thrown. And some people actually died during the riots. It was all staged. And I'm not talking about like actors. That was a bunch of bull crap. I'm talking about they were making their own news. Isn't it weird how the news just ends up showing where it was? So you got to be very careful. That's why I'm afraid of cancel culture, because if we censor everything, that's what they do over in China. Everything's censored.
Right.
Think about North Korea. They can't even have the news. The news is the government. The government's the news. So whatever they tell you, and unfortunately they believe, because they have nothing else to go by, right? Very dangerous.
Right.
It's a slippery slope at best. And that is the CEO's words for Joe Rogan. Basically, it was canceling voices is a slippery slope. But boy, if that ain't true. If you have a question or a concern, or if you want to add to this, feel free to put it in the comments and we will bring it up. Anyways, let's move on. Now let's talk about Spotify and Rumble. So Rumble offered $100 million for Joe to come over to the platform. Here's why I think that was smart that he didn't do. I'm assuming Joe and Spotify already had the meeting. Let's be honest. Right. I'm sure they had the meeting, right?
Right.
Even if there was no sleep, they've had the meeting. We live in a world today. Information is so fast. Business has never been as fast as it is today. You could come up with an idea today. If you don't get that sucker to market in 6 months, you're too late. Right? So with that being said, right now, I don't know if you knew this, but Rumble's valuation, which I thought was 100 million, it is now 2.1 billion.
Wow.
Okay. So there was a hedge fund that brought him public, blah, blah, blah. Their valuation is 2.1. Spotify's valuation, 72 billion.
Holy cow.
So if Joe being smart, he's already with a platform that's already proved themselves. They already have legs.
Yeah.
Now, and if they were though going to be all about censorship and cancel culture, then I have a different opinion on this.
Well, exactly. And if I think that was the case, I think he would have bolted. But I also love the loyalty. You know what I mean? Like that's a lost term, lost art anymore. Everyone's so quick to move, so quick to jump ship, so quick to do stuff.
Yes.
Where, sometimes staying where you are, is the best move. The grass is not always greener on the other side, And I definitely, like if you got the CEO and the company standing behind him, he's going to show loyalty back to them,
Without a doubt. And if with both sides, I would have said, if he would have just sat and done nothing, just wait it out. It's hard to, because you're going to see all of the arrows coming at you, right? But
Right.
if he would have just waited it out, I think it would have worked itself out that way. But I think Spotify, yes, they removed some stuff. I'm not a big fan of that, so I stand there. I'm not a fan of that. What did they remove? Like, I'm not a fan. Whoopi Goldberg, once again, I don't think that she needs to be canceled. I certainly don't think she even needs to be suspended. I just think it needs to be a conversation. I think it was kind of like, okay, this is what she's thinking. Maybe there was more people thinking that. So unfortunately, I'm talking to somebody that's of color. He goes, I hate to even admit this, but I used to think that. And I go, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, I just thought it was like, is the guy like colorblind? Like he's trying to kill white people and keep white people. I'm like, but that's what he's like. He didn't know. Like he didn't know. That's an education problem. And whose fault of that is? Where is the fault of that?
Right.
School.
Yeah, exactly. The system.
How did they not know? Like, I knew, right? Now,
Right.
part of the reason why I know, I have a little Jewish in us. My mother had Jewish in her, and my mother's parents worried about that because my mother looked Jewish. So he didn't realize there was a look that he thought it was just a religion. He thought that this was in our conversation, by the way. He thought, and now this is somebody of color, and he's just like, Tim, I never understood it. It's like, how would they even know? Like he was thinking this when he was a kid. Like, how would they even know? Like, how did they know who was who? And you think about it, it's like, okay, he's got a point. Like,
Right.
And I said, what was their name? And it was this, and it was that. And then as I'm explaining it, he's like, oh, a lot of the Jewish people in even in Germany owned a lot of the businesses. So they took the businesses, literally went into shops and took them over.
Right.
He's like, holy crap, what? I go, yeah. Then they round him up, and we all know the rest of the history, right? That's the fault of the schools, in my opinion. So what I thought that they should do is make a show about it. And then Whoopi just realizing, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I'm okay with that. We can't always be right. Am I a fan of hers? I'm not, but I'm sure she's deep down a good person, but I don't know. I just not a big fan.
Right. Right.
I am a fan of Joe Rogan. I don't believe in everything or stand by everything that's said. But as he's very thought provoking, he's got great ideas and he's got great guests. I just leave it at that. All right. So you got Rumble. Rumble has not proven themselves yet. I don't believe Rumble has legs yet. Everyone says they do. How do you feel do you have Rumble on your phone?
I do not.
Do you have Spotify on your phone?
I do not.
I don't either. I got iTunes and,
Right. I got Pandora.
Yeah, I got that. I don't listen to that much. I do it a different way. I pay to get no ads with YouTube. And by doing so, you get all the music.
Right.
And it's cheap. So when does brand become a commodity? Joe Rogan is a perfect example of this. He is a brand that is now a commodity.
Right.
A lot of people just don't understand. Well, why would anyone throw him 100 million? Because he's number one. He's got the hugest audience of all of them, or the largest audience of all of them.
Well, and let me ask you this. Do you think in the long term this is going to help him or hurt him?
I think it's going to help him.
I think it's going to help him too.
There's something that was said. Now it's a little harder today.
Do you remember? Where like, and I can't remember. Like, there was a study years ago. Like, if you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of something, you watch it a little bit of the time. If you're a hater, you watch it all the time.
Isn't that funny?
I mean? Yes. And this is going to and this is going to attract even more haters that are going to watch the show even more and even make them bigger.
Yes, and believe it or not, to that point, it'll also convert some people up. Like, you know what? This show is better than I thought it was, or this show's not what I thought it was. It's like good stuff. He's got some incredible guests. As you know, like I'm fasting now. So I'm doing intermittent fasting. Right now, I'm 1 meal a day. He had amazing, like, that's when I watch it. So I'll see a headline. Joe will have somebody on that I know or follow or whatever. When he has Miley Cyrus on, I just don't watch it. Nothing
Right.
against her, but I'm just not interested, right?
Right.
If he's got somebody on and they're all talking about marijuana and the legalization of it, I'm not going to watch it. I'm just not interested in it.
Right.
It doesn't impact me. But
And
if
that's your right to change the channel. You know what I mean? Which is how we start the day. You know,
that's the way it should be. Like, you know, we're helping people with creation and stuff, and we live in a strange world that way. I do believe it's going to correct itself. I don't believe this cancel culture is going to. It doesn't even have legs. So it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long that's just got to stop. Right.
I think people are getting fed up with it. I think.
Oh man, look at the law, law and disorder. Like,
that's what
you go into California, the break-ins, there are these mobs now that go into malls and literally they just overwhelm. I literally watched one that the security guard is just watching them go in. You got to see it. Like, he's literally just watching them and watching them go. At least get on your damn radio and say, hey, we need backup here. He doesn't even do that. He just watches them do that, and then they go, right?
Right.
And they go in there, and what they do is they target, like, expensive places, so jewelry stores, and they just rob them of everything they got, right? As much as they can grab. And then they run out of the mall, and they run out of every exit. So it's like, you got to just choose who you're going to arrest. And most of them got away. Then you got that train that was robbed, the boxcars and stuff that was just full of merchandise. I forget what they took, but regardless of that, we have this disorder. Like, my son was part of a, probably I shouldn't even say it, but he's on SWAT, and they had, 3 a.m. Well, it was in the paper, so I can talk about it. 3 a.m. They got to do their thing while you and I are sleeping.
Right.
Can you imagine if that wasn't done? Like, these were hardcore criminals with drugs and guns, and like, that's what we need. Now, if you have a racist cop, absolutely no. Like, we got to get rid of them. We need more law and order for all of us. You don't have people that are of color or black or Hispanic that say we definitely don't want police officers. That's not true. That is not the voice of the average American. And all of us are Americans, right? And we all equally have the same rights, and we all equally need to be protected, right? We got to have laws. And I have a problem with that. So even Joe Rogan had a few people on there regarding this, and I was all for that. And I don't know, he doesn't sit technically politically. I don't think he voted for Biden, but he's definitely not a Trump supporter. Like, and I think you and I are more of a, I'm more independent, and I choose who's right. Because I voted for Obama back in the day. I know you probably don't.
But but let me also, I mean, like, that's why I am independent.
Yes.
It's because I want the best person for the job.
There you go.
Based on their values and beliefs.
Yes.
And what their agenda is, period. I don't care who
why,
they are. I don't care what they are.
Why is it that it's always Republican, always Democrat? We almost need that. And I don't mean like, I'm not going to talk about it here, but you and I are capitalists, right? So we believe in a capitalist society. This is what made America great. This is what it was founded on. This is what makes immigrants come over here, the promised land, right? And at the end of the day, we're starting to lose ground on that. I don't believe we're the superpower anymore. I don't even believe that we have that we're the richest country anymore. We're probably not, and I just don't know it. but at the end of the day, every country that's out there, for the most part, was influenced by America. I'm freaking proud of that.
Right.
I'm very proud of that. The flag for America stands for all of us. I don't care what race you are, what color. Here's where I stand, though. What's that?
But that's the credit to the generations prior to us.
Yes.
It's not going to be for the generations behind us. That's for sure. Unless they get their act together.
I know. Who made the flag?
Right.
Betty Ross, right? Like, it was to symbolize freedom. Like Abraham Lincoln wanted freedom, right? He wanted freedom for everybody. It wasn't just African Americans. Obviously, they were the ones mostly affected back then.
No,
But there was racism against the Irish that came. There was racism against I don't know if it's that, but I mean as far as they were targeted, let's put it that way. It's got to be about freedom. However, we got to have laws. We got to have, when people come over to the country, they got to understand what our values are, what this country stands for, the laws of this country. That is very important.
There is no one I know that is against legal immigration. Not one person.
Same.
You know?
And I honestly can tell you, okay, there was a few that throughout the years, I just, you don't say anything, but you just don't associate with them anymore.
Right.
I can honestly tell you, every family member, especially the ones I raised, my wife and I, but every family member, my brothers, my sisters, my everyone. I don't know of anyone in my family, including the history of my family. My dad, especially, my dad was definitely top with this, that was ever a racist. Not one. Not one. Now, there are some families that would admit, yeah, my dad was pretty bad. Like I never had that. Thank God. I was raised right, never had those issues. But I believe that if we are all going to say we're all Americans, we all have equal rights, including immigration, I'm all for immigration. Once again, I still believe we have the best country in the world.
Well, no,
I'm not giving up on it.
Well, no, and I agree. And I think that's part of what made this country great. The American dream.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that was part of it,
That's why our ancestors came over. Like my grandfather was 7. Even when I was a little boy, he had a broken English. Like you can hear the Swedish in his voice, because when he was 7, he didn't speak English because they came over on the boat. His dad never did. So, and I have his dad's, my middle name it's Elbin. That was my grandfather's name, right? I know. Elbin. Anyways, at the end of the day, they came over here, amazing furniture makers, amazing carpentry skills. Like they brought skills. Why do you think that America wanted immigration? Do you realize the diversity that we had because of that?
The diversity, the workforce needed to build the country, to get the infrastructure in place. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah. And now, I do believe in certain sets of history, Black history. I'm not for some things, but I get that. And I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, when you start labeling and excluding form of racism, I'm sorry. So if you don't want it, then don't do it.
Right. You know what I mean? But like why can't that story be a part of the American history?
True.
You know what I mean?
That's going to, yeah. So this week we're going to talk about,
right.
Absolutely. Right. I agree with that. That's a good point. Okay. We're going to wrap this up here in a moment. If you want to be part of the conversation, feel free to put it in. So Joe Rogan shouldn't have apologized. I don't know who asked that. You're right. I agree with that. He should not have. He should have put a disclose. He should have.
Right.
A
disclosure disclaimer. Right. Yeah. Right. Addressed it and be done with it, but don't apologize for it.
Yeah. Don't apologize. And but he's got a brand. Joe Rogan has got a brand. Oprah Winfrey was a brand. So Oprah eventually was like, you know what? And Joe Rogan, someday, maybe this is going to happen. Oprah Winfrey in the day realized that certain networks didn't have her interest at heart. And she's like, I got to own my show. So she owned her own show and she syndicated, meaning networks would pick her up and pay, but they would pick the show up.
Right.
Right now, Spotify's got Joe. So he still owns the show. So one of the questions that were asked of me was like, man, it would have sucked if they would have just eliminated him. Cause then, no.
You know what I mean? Like they're under, like Joe owns his own rights. He's under so he has a contract for them to broadcast his show.
Yes.
He can take his show anywhere else. It's still his, and do another contract and broadcast it somewhere else.
Right now they have the rights to him. And eventually that'll come up for negotiation
or renewal.
Maybe Rumble will get him next. Maybe YouTube will get him back.
Right.
I still don't understand the YouTube thing.
No, me neither. But yeah,
No,
I mean,
what I
hey,
mean by that is you got Joe Rogan's show podcast, but yeah, that
right.
same show goes on YouTube. So I don't quite understand that because he makes money on YouTube. You know, he's got a
Right.
huge channel.
Following. Right.
Now, is it that the podcast is different than what's being
Well,
said
well,
on?
well, chances are the podcast is live and first. You know what I mean? And then whatever time frame, 2 days, a week, whatever, then it goes on his YouTube channel. Probably for the people that don't have Spotify, they can still watch his brand.
Yeah, if somebody knows how that works, I would love to know it because I just don't know. Good point. Let's see. I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. Well, let's just wrap it up with this. You know, canceling anything, I'm just not a big fan. I don't think even CNN. I don't care for CNN. I listen. I remember watching the news. Crap you not. Like I'm literally like in real time. My wife and I used to. I don't do it anymore. We were watching the Today Show, and somehow they're tapping into live. I want to say it was CNN. It probably was another network that's affiliated with this the Today Show. But here's what happened, and this is like crazy, and you can find it on YouTube actually. Matt Lauer, that's another one. Matt Lauer was canceled. Now he kind of did something creepy. I don't know. I'm not going to judge him. I don't know what that was, but there is a line, and I will agree with that. If it's really bad, then wisdom of the crowd, like type of thing. Like, does he have to go? Yeah, he needs to go. I get that. I'm okay with that. But when everyone's supporting Joe and the numbers of people coming out, then you know that, okay, maybe we're not looking at this right. Maybe we need to look at it again. That's my feeling with it. But here was the deal. We're watching it, and they're showing this like hurricane, like, oh, this flooding was absolutely horrible. And you see the reporter in a canoe. And all of a sudden,
I was thinking about that earlier during this. Right. Right.
You see these two dudes, you know they did it on purpose. They walked right behind the canoe, and Matt Lauer goes, are those guys like literally walking? You know, a canoe only needs like 2 inches of water to float.
Right, to float.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but it doesn't need a lot of water.
I was thinking like, it was like the Weather Channel, but I was thinking the exact same thing during this conversation. You know,
maybe it was the Weather Channel. I'm not sure. I want to say it was a network though, because they got ridiculed for it. So
they got ridiculed.
What's that?
They got ridiculed big time, but I can't remember what it was. I wanted to say the Weather Channel. I'm probably not right on that, but I remember that. I remember that same thing.
And then there was another one. It was Nancy Grace was in one location, and supposedly this other lady was in another location. They're discussing this topic matter, and I crap you not, this bus that you can't you can't say, oh, it was coincidental. No, it had the same sign on it, goes behind the one lady, and then it goes behind Nancy Grace, meaning they're both literally in front of each other. Like you and I, it doesn't even matter if you're somewhere else and I'm here. They're pretending to be, she was pretending to be like, I think in another country, and you saw the bus go by. That's what, when people talk about fake news, that's what they're talking about. Yeah. Your networks, do we really want that? Like, if you look at North Korea, everything's censored. Like they don't get real news. They're so sheltered. Like they're like way in the dark ages. Like they don't know anything. Matter of fact, a few that escaped and got into the real world, they like couldn't even believe, like they just couldn't believe it. Like they're sheltered that much there, right? Do we really want to go there? Like, because you remember, if we keep winning, or I should say, if the cancel culture ways wins out, when does it stop? When does it stop? Right?
It doesn't. Revolution or another civil war. Right.
Well, it's not only that, it's just they're going to be so restrictive. Pretty soon, we're not going to be the free society that we are. Pretty soon, you're not going to have freedom of speech. Pretty soon, you won't be able to be downtown without having to show an ID to be there.
Right.
Right. We don't want that. So anyways, okay, we're going to wrap this up. This was a good topic. I had a lot of questions coming through regarding like what does this mean? Like, with online, like, can they just shut down your website? The answer is yes and no. It depends on where you host. I know we would never do it. The only thing that we don't allow is bad sites and gambling sites, because we don't want it to the bandwidth problem. We don't want it to cause a problem with the servers. That's a different thing. But at the end of the day, what you should do is own your own assets. You should own your own website. If Rogan was canceled, everyone knows where to go to find him again.
Well,
right?
I mean, honestly, look at Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, the people that have moved on to syndication. I mean, you can still find them,
Yeah, and Oprah, she did hers, and my wife and I were on the Oprah Winfrey show. Literally, okay, we were, so the audience is already there, and then we come out, and we went into the first row before they interviewed my wife. And at the end of the day, we're out there, and Oprah announced, which obviously we didn't know, that she just signed the new deal or lease, not lease, I'm sorry. What is it called? For her show, where they extend it.
Yeah. The contract renewal.
The contract, whatever.
Yeah.
So we just signed our new contract for the next whatever. And then after that, she decided to form her own network elsewhere. But prior to that, she was syndicated, meaning somebody would pick her up, like Spotify picks you up.
Right.
Rumble would pick you up.
Or or even like CBS, NBC, ABC, you know what I mean? Like, picked up her show,
Yeah, absolutely. And then eventually she just wanted her own network, which was the OWN network, which own channel. And so she did that. But that's what branding's about. And I just feel like going back to Joe, I don't know. I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in censorship like that. If it was true misinformation, that's still debatable. No different than where did it start? How did it start? That now is known that it was started in a lab. Like, that's not even controversy anymore. Like, it's now known. Fauci admits it. It is what it is. That's not misinformation. It's fact now. So who was to say that was misinformation back then? Why couldn't that be open for debate? Why wasn't it investigated? And why aren't we, more importantly, doing something about it? Because if we're going to have another one, and I said it when the swine flu happened, I said, if you think that's bad, there's going to be something worse coming. And sure enough, and I'm not saying, but we got to do something to say, hey, and not be accused of being xenophobic, not being accused of being a racist. Smart is smart. Like, I love Chinese people. I mean, I have nothing against the people. I have something against a government that would want to literally create something that could wipe out a lot of people. Like, I'm against that. Sorry, but I am.
Well, I mean, I'm against any country or anybody that wants to squash another one's freedom.
Exactly. Especially, like, I don't know how we got on this subject, but it's still part of censorship. But look at, they want to, was it Taiwan? Where, like, literally they want to take them over. Like, we can't allow that to happen. Like, is it Taiwan? Taiwan, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it's Taiwan. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But see, I'm allowed to be wrong. Like, don't take everything to heart with what we say. Like, we're, it's our opinions on stuff.
Right.
Alrighty. I will announce next week what we're going to be doing. I love the noon time, and we'll let everyone be aware of what the show's going to be. We're hoping to get this one certain guest on. And if we could do that, that would be a really cool. Now I will let everyone know way in advance, because you are going to want to bring your questions for sure. So anyways, thank you, Dee, for being on. Everybody watching us. Until next time, have a great week, rest of the week, an amazing weekend, and Super Bowl.
There you go.
I know I'm go Bengals. That's I know what I'm after, but wish it was the Bills. It's not. It is what it is.
It's what it is.
All right, brother. You have a good one. Hey, everybody. Have a safe weekend.